What? My taxes are what? Are you kidding me? What does all this mean? Millage, trim, taxable value. Oh my God. Hey, if this sounds like you and you're confused and you don't know how to read your trim, stay tuned. I'm going to give you a few pointers on what you need to know about your trim notice that was just mailed out. Hey, if you're staring at this trim notice and you're confused, it's okay. It's super confusing. I've outlined a few things that you need to know about your trim notice, and here's what you need to know. 1, what's my millage rate? 2, what are my proposed taxes? 3, what's the market value the property appraiser is saying my value's worth? 4, what's my taxable value? And 5, lastly, what's the deadline to file a tax appeal if I'm gonna file? That's what you gotta get from your trim, so let's get into it. All right, well, before we get into the trim notice and what it means, let's kind of talk about why this is happening. So every year in August, the Lee County property appraiser mails out the trim notice, and that means truth in millage. And the purpose of this notice is to inform you of your proposed taxes that are coming due in November. Now, the key to this is if there's something that you don't like in your trim notice, you don't like your property value, they've got the house described wrong, etc., you have the right to protest. So this is basically informing you these are your taxes, and if you don't like it, you have the right to protest. And they give you a deadline to protest by, which we'll talk about later. What's not obvious in this trim notice is there's actually 4 different government agencies that you would be dealing with in the process. So you've got your Lee County property appraiser, they mail out the trim notice, they deal with the property values. You've got your tax collector, they only collect the fees and do the tax deeds and sales. You've got your clerk of courts, they will schedule your value adjustment board hearing and do all the scheduling. And you've got your taxing authorities, that's like the school board, and they're the entities that come up with the different millage rates and the taxes that are applied to the property tax. So you got 4 different people you're dealing with. It's important to know who to talk to. All right, so we're at the Lee County Property Appraiser's main website, homepage. I'm going to put in my address right here. Going to do search. That brings us up to the data page. On the right-hand side, you'll see some blue links. The 2025 trim, that's where we want to go. So now we're on our trim notice. We're on page 1. And what is our millage rate? So that's our first thing we want to know. And if we come down here, you'll see the total millage rate right here, 15.461. That is our taxable rate. And this is the taxes charged per every $1,000 of property value. That's what millage means. And then these are the taxing authorities here to the left, the public schools, City of Cape Coral, etc. Looking over here to the right, $4,664. This is your proposed taxes. And this is what we call your ad valorem tax, which means according to value, which is Latin. And this is the portion of your taxes that are based on real estate and the real estate value. So your rough estimated tax bill is going to be $4,644, but that bill does not show your non-ad valorem taxes. Non-ad valorem taxes are taxes that aren't based on the property's value. Those are just taxes that are, every $100 for every house in the area for water and sewer. That's your non-ad valorem taxes. So on my tax bill, which I'm going to show you here in a second, you will see ad valorem and non-ad valorem taxes. So this right here is the formal tax bill that comes out in November. So this is last year's tax bill, and I'm showing this so you can see the breakdown. This is ad valorem taxes. are taxes based on your real estate value here. This is non-ad valorem taxes. These are taxes that aren't based on my real estate value, and these won't show up on your trim notice. Roughly, it's about 20%, you need to add to your bill for the non-ad valorem taxes. So we've talked about our taxing authorities. We've talked about our millage rate. This section right here says a public hearing. If you want to protest your millage rate or your taxes, these are the different public hearings you would attend. So I would go to the school board hearing and say, hey, you guys are taxing me too much. That's where you would do it. So they have all the public notices right here, so you can go protest your taxes. Now we're on page 2 of the trim. So the important thing to grasp on this page 2 is this value right here, this 2025, what's the value of my house, or this is the market value. And in this case, it was $503,632. That value or definition is, this is what the value was, it's important, January 1, 2025, if an able or willing buyer bought it or we put it on the open market. To figure out this data here, this value, you can only use sales from the prior date. So that's only sales in year 2024. A lot of people make that mistake. So when you're looking at your trim, this is your property value as January 1, and this value used data from 2024. All right, moving on. The rest of this talks about the assessed value and the assessment reduction and exemptions. So this gets a little confusing. The assessed value is the value when your property was put on the tax rolls. And that's important because we have certain things called like Save Our Home benefit and assessment reductions. And basically these reductions are all based off the original value that the property hit the tax rolls. In the case of Save Our Homes, if you have homesteaded your house in the next year, that property can't increase any more than 3% or the consumer price index, whatever is less. If it's not a homesteaded property, it can't increase any more than 10%. So these are reductions in the value of the property over time. And something just to be aware of, these things become huge factors over a long period of time, 10 plus years. Your basically taxable or assessed value could be 50% less than the market value, which is basically saying that your taxes are half of what they would be if you bought the house brand new that day and had to get reassessed in the tax rolls. These are your exemptions. So the key thing we're really looking for here on your trim notice is you just want to make sure that my assessments are here. Here's my Save My Homes, my homestead's here. You just want to make sure if you've applied for any of that, it is being reflected in your trim notice. Okay, moving down. The next thing we're trying to figure out is what's our taxable value. So there's a column here called taxable value, and this is the value coming from our assessment minus our exemptions. And so the taxable value right here is $286,998, and that's our taxable value. This note that the school is a little bit different. The reason it is different is because it doesn't have to honor the exemptions above. So it's a little bit different. But these are basically, this is the value you're getting taxed on. So we're going to take our millage rate from up here, and we're applying it to this value here, and we come up with our taxable value, which is back up here. All right, and if you're not confused yet, it's okay. We're going to go to the bottom page, and the last thing we need to know is in fine print, what's the deadline to file your tax appeal? So right here in the middle, it says September 12th, 2025. That's the deadline that if you're gonna file a tax appeal, that you gotta have your appeal in. I have another video that will show you how to file this appeal if that's something you wanna do. All right, so now you know your millage rate, you know your taxes, You know your market value from your property appraiser, you know your taxable value, and you know the deadline to file. Now you know everything you need to know about your trim. So if you want to know more about filing a tax appeal, make sure you like and subscribe. I got some more videos going out that are going to teach you how to do your own tax appeal.